As you can see, this video is all about Sega and some of the items I found in my childhood house for Epic Treasures Part 7. Let's get into this. Before we jump into the actual stuff that I got, I want to go into some of the history of Sega. So if you're not familiar with Sega or haven't really played it, you're more of a Nintendo fan, you get to understand where Sega came from. So, a little bit about Sega. In 1960, Sega was founded by Martin Brumley and Richard Stewart. And when they founded it, the company wasn't actually called Sega at the time. It was called Naiku Goraku Rosen. Just after they acquired the assets of Service Games of Japan, they were actually owned by the same people who founded Sega in 1960, but they actually lost a bit of it due to illegal business actions. Service Games of Japan were slot machines. So it was a different time back then. Just after getting all their assets back, they actually started a second company, and that company was called Nihon Kikei Seizu. So after they created the second company, eventually a little bit later, they decided to combine the two companies and focus their business on slot machines and coin-operated machines like Jukeboxes. In 1965, they decided to purchase the Rosen Enterprises. Rosen Enterprises was a company known for creating photo booths for different parties and whatnot, right? And then from there, they changed the name to Sega Enterprises. And since they became Sega Enterprises, their main business was coin-operated machines like slot machines, like jukeboxes, like pinball games, and some of them they actually worked with a couple other companies, including Midway Games. They're more popular in more recent times, and newer games like Mortal Kombat. Well, the older games were by Mortal Kombat, and not the new ones. And they've also came out with a bunch of other games too, like NBA Jam back in the 90s as well. In 1969, Sega was actually sold to Gulf and Western Industries. After they were sold to Gulf and Western Industries, they actually shortened the name to Sega, but then in 1974, they changed it from Sega back to Sega Enterprises. Go figure, right? Hold up, let's go back to 1973. In 1973, Sega came out with their first actual video game called Pong-Tron, or the arcade. In 1981, Sega came out with a huge hit known as Rugger. Afterwards, when the arcade business was in decline, Sega decided to come out with their very first gaming system called the SG-1000 and the SG-3000, which were 8-bit systems in Japan. SG-1000 sold 160,000 units in Japan in 1983, which was 50,000 more units than they thought they were going to be able to sell, as they projected, right? But it still fell short of the NES.
Sega GP です。
In 1984, Sega decided to re-enter the arcade business, and they found huge success with some of their games that they re-brought in to the arcade. In 1985, Sega decided to redesign the SG-1000, but then when it was released into North America as the Master System, and then in Japan as the Mark III, but still, they weren't able to be as popular as Nintendo or Famicom, as known in Japan.
Sega challenges you with the ultimate video games. Games that'll blow you away, like Alex Kidd in Miracle World. And coming soon, Monopoly. Knockout games like Rocky. Gangster Town. And shift into more excitement with the arcade hit Outrun. Only on the Sega system. Sega, the challenge will always be there.
Also in 1985, Sega decided to partner with Tonka, as in the Tonka Toy Truck Company, to market to families in North America, but unfortunately it didn't really help them and they fell short of Nintendo. Again, as a result of sales dropping in North America working with Tonka, the same happened in Europe, but at that time Sega found huge success in Brazil marketing the Master System, and even up until 2016 they were still selling Master units in Brazil. Everywhere else it was retired, but in Brazil it was still going. That's kind of crazy, right? In 1988, Sega came out with their first 16-bit system, and in Japan they called it the Megadrive, which when they released into North America, it was known as the Sega Genesis, and it sold 500,000 units when it first came out. Wow!
The Sega Genesis has blast processing. Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do? What if you don't have blast processing?
Now we are up to date with the Sega Genesis. And the Sega Genesis I bought not brand new. It was used. I still got to do a bit of dusting on it. It still needs a bit of cleanup, but it still worked. And I tested a bunch of games on it and they still work. So yeah, and it came with 1 or 2 controllers. This controller, different from the Nintendo, it has more buttons than the NES, but less than the Super NES. And this came out around the same time as the Super NES, and it has a diagonal buttons, a start button, no select, just start, and A, B, C. So yeah, it's about the same as a Nintendo actually, if you factor in that there's no select button. And the original Nintendo had start, select, and A and B. So still 4 buttons. But compared to Super Nintendo, had 6 buttons plus start and select. So a little bit about my experience with the Sega Genesis. I first played it at the dentist, believe it or not. I'm not sure if I mentioned in my previous video when I was talking about Nintendo, but that's where I first played Nintendo before I got it. I was there and also a friend's house. But Sega Genesis, I also first played at the dentist while waiting for my appointment, right? And you can like switch back and forth between a couple of different games they had set up there. I think they had like Sonic and they had Jurassic Park and a couple other Sega Genesis games. The games would go in here, and my reset button when I got it didn't work at all, so it probably still doesn't work now. I never use it, but power still works. And the games, when, like I said, when I put the cartridge in, it actually plays it. So I was able to play some games without doing much dusting and cleaning, like I mentioned in how I'd clean cartridges in the previous video for Nintendo, which the cartridge cleaning would be the same as Sega Genesis. And I first bought this at a hawk shop. And if you're not from Canada, you're like, what the heck is a hawk shop? Like, do they actually have hawks there? Like, no. There's no hawks. It's a pawn shop. It's a franchise, or it was a franchise in Canada. It had different pawn shops in different cities, especially north of the GTA. So if you're looking to buy Sega Genesis on eBay, the lowest I could find, Canadian, was $14.50, and it came with 3 controllers. 2 of them were turbo. And the highest I could find Sega Genesis on eBay was $3,000, which came with 179 games and 2 controllers. Wow. The next Sega item I found and going through my old house was Sega 2, which actually came with the system when I got it, previously used. It came out in 1992 by Sega. And Sonic is famously known as a blue hedgehog, and he's known for his spinning and his super fast speed. And he's also known to have a sidekick. His name is Tails, and Tails is famous for flying using his tail. He has 2 tails, and he spins it so he's like a helicopter and he can fly. And their arch rival is Dr. Robotnik, or commonly known as Egghead. And he has all this technology he uses to try to stop Sonic. And it was just a lot of fun back in the day. And Sonic was made to be the arch rival of Nintendo's Mario, for business purposes.
You're too slow!
Back when the game came out, Sega found huge success with Sonic 2, which improved on the first game, and they actually won 2 Golden Joystick Awards. That was an award show, I guess, back in the day for games. And the critics critiqued the game as improvement on the first game in visual, level design, gameplay, and music. Sonic 2 grossed over $450 million from when it first came out in 1992 all the way up to 2006. Yes, 2006 worldwide. Go Brazil! So when I was talking about Sega Genesis and how when I first got it, I got it from the Hawk Shop and I used to play it at the dentist. This game, Sonic 2, was the actual first game I played at the dentist. It came with the Sega Genesis when I bought the game at Hawk Shop. And yeah, it's a classic and a very good selling classic, as it's Sega Genesis' second highest grossing game ever. If you were to buy it on eBay, the lowest you could find without the box Canadian was $17.54. The highest you could find it on eBay was $15,000, still in the package, sealed with the WATA seal of approval. Now you're probably wondering, what is WATA? WATA is something similar to the AFA. WATA does all the officially sealed collectible ratings and for video games, right? So that's what WATA is.
Now, when you buy the Sega Genesis that comes with Sonic 1, you'll get Sonic 2 absolutely free. Sonic 2 handles stubborn stains, embarrassing bald spots, no problem. It even slices and dices, makes thousands of julienne fries. But wait, you can play it too. This free Sonic 2 is a $54.99 value. You get 2 Sonics for the price of 1. Sonic 2 fits easily into any tackle box. Made from a space-age polymer plastic for years of family fun. And pets love it too. Buy the Sega Genesis that comes with Sonic 1 and get Sonic 2 free.
Act now. Wiener Dog Sweater sold separately.
The next game I found from my childhood was Six Pack, released in 1995 by Sega, which in Europe, it was actually released as Mega Game 6, and it was actually released in 3 different volumes, so basically 2 games per volume. But in North America, it was known as Six Pack, all 6 games in the same cartridge. Now, looking at the game, I just realized, besides the original price sticker, you could have back then called Sega for support, for not just support, but for secrets, gaming secrets. I had no idea this even existed, but there was a catch, and Sega would make tons of money off of it. The phone number you would have called was a 1-900 number. Let me think, what was a 1-900 numbers used for back in the day? Psychics. Crazy, right? So, because it didn't cost them anything, it cost you something if you were to call 1-900 number, right? So I didn't know that until I looked at it just now. So the 6 packs came with 6 games. The original Sonic game, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Revenge of Shinobi, Super Hang-On, and Columns. A little bit about each little game. I just wanted to go a little bit in detail. I'm not going to go too much detail on Sonic because I already kind of talked about Sonic already. But Columns was basically Sega's version of Tetris, which was originally released in 1989 by James Gertsen. In 1990, the rights were sold to Sega, which Sega owned the rights to the Sega Board C arcade unit, which they sold to multiple other platforms to gain the profits. So fun fact, Columns is not actually known as Columns in Brazil. I know Brazil is the odd one here, but Columns is actually known as Shapes and Columns because Columns was already known as a product by Avon. So the third game in 6 packs is Golden Axe. And Golden Axe is a beat 'em up game that came out in 1989 for Sega. So the game of Golden Axe is actually the first game of multiple games that came out in the game series for Sega back in the 90s. But when it was designed, it was greatly inspired by Conan the Barbarian and other big Hollywood blockbusters at that time when they decided to make the game and the game series.
Thy quest is to crush Death Adder's evil henchmen. Seek wisdom from your Sega hotline and face thy destiny. Golden Axe, 'tis mighty serious fun.
The fourth game is the Revenge of Shinobi. And Shinobi was an arcade classic back in the day. And this was a sequel, but this was not designed for the arcade originally. It was designed for the system itself. Some of the cutscenes and title scenes in Revenge of Shinobi were actually done by martial art actors who performed the scenes, and then they inspired it with the graphics. From the popular TV series Cage no Gundam in Japan. The fifth game was Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage. And in Japan, it was actually not known as Streets of Rage, but as known as Bare Knuckle no Akira Tekken in Japan. The game was first released in 1991, and it was known to be a beat-em-up fighting game, and it was the first game of its series that started multiple games afterward.
Featuring Streets of Rage, the fighting game that'll knock your socks off, with 40 individually controllable attack moves, and a neighborhood crawling with punks, muggers, and urban slime. Streets of Rage, only on the 16-bit Genesis system from Sega.
And the last game of the six-pack is Super Hang-On, which came out in 1987, which is basically a motorcycle racing game developed by Studio 128 and Sega.
大ヒットゲームスーパーハングオンメガドライブで登場。オリジナルモードでマシンをグレードアップ、ライバルを倒せ。エキサイトレーシングゲームセガスーパーハングオン。
A little bit about my experience with Six Pack. When I played it, I didn't play really all 6 games. I wasn't really into all 6 games. The games that I were into was Sonic and Streets of Rage and Shinobi, Revenge of Shinobi, was the main 3 games I was really into. The other ones are, yeah, they're okay, you know. If you went on eBay to look for a 6-pack, the cheapest I could find with no box is $8.99 US. The highest I could find was $350 US, still in a box, still in its original shrink wrap. Wow. The next game that I found that was developed by Sega and Technical Wave, released in 1992, Taz-Mania. And yes, this is the original box, and the game is still inside. Unfortunately, I don't have the manual. Now, this game was originally based off of the cartoon by the same name, Taz-Mania, which was a spin-off off of Looney Tunes, you know, like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, that type of thing. But it's based off the character Taz, or the Tasmanian Devil. If you're a big fan of Looney Tunes back in the day, you would have known Taz-Mania loves to eat everything, and he spins around like a tornado, and you can't understand anything he says. Now, the cartoon was based off of him, and then they introduced his family, so his mom, his dad, his sister, his brother, and they could all talk normally, except for Taz. I think in the show, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the show, the parents just thought he had a speech impediment. I don't know on that. I could be wrong. So the game is based off of the show Taz-Mania.
Tasmanian devil and his closest kin.
Come to Tasmania, come to Tasmania.
Mom's alive, why her dad's no bump on a log. Molly's all fired up, or Jake plays with the dog.
So basically, Taz and his brother Jake and his sister are listening to a story from his dad. He was telling him the story about these giant seabirds that would lay eggs, which would feed a family of Tasmanian devils for a long time. And there was a legend that there was a hidden valley where all these giant seabirds live. And so the quest of the game, you play as Taz, and you're trying to find all these eggs and then also find the hidden valley where these giant birds are so you can feed your family. And so in the game, his weapons are him eating things. He's hot, he'll breathe fire out of it, and he'd also spin would be his other weapon. And that's pretty much the game. My experience, I got the game from third hand from Hawk Shop, I believe. And I had so much fun playing this game. I loved the character Taz, and playing as him was so much fun. And I remember spending a lot of time playing the game. I don't remember if I ever beat it or not. I may have, I don't remember. But it is a highly recommended game if you ever find this game and you want to play it. If you were to buy Taz-Mania on eBay, the cheapest I could find was $3.50, just the game itself, no box. And the most expensive I could find was $199.99, still in the box, for the Megadrive.
Electricity? Careful there. Ha! Or it'll toast your eyeballs.
The next game I found from my childhood is Tecmo Super Bowl 3, the final edition by Tecmo, which was released for Sega Genesis and the Super NES. So this game, Tecmo Super Bowl 3, the final edition, was the final edition of the Tecmo Super Bowl games. There was 3, Tecmo Bowl, Tecmo Super Bowl, which I mentioned in the previous Nintendo video, and this one. And this one, I guess Tecmo was done making football games, was more realistic than the other Tecmo football games.
You might do this. I don't know, a lot of football still to be played here. I'm hitting reset. Don't you dare hit reset. You hit reset, you're banned for life.
And you could do multiple seasons as well. They were in competition with other football games like the Madden series, which they do a game every year, right? So maybe that's why. And nowadays they're more known for fighting games like Dead or Alive. I had lots of memories playing this game. Like Tecmo Super Bowl, me and my brother used to play each other, and I didn't play it blindfolded, but I still really liked the game. I'm not too good at it now, but I had a lot of memories, and me and my brother played a lot, and especially played each other a lot. And then those were the toughest games in any sport games when me and my brother played each other, because we were a lot better than playing easy on the computer. If you went on eBay, the cheapest I could find this game on eBay was $10 US, just like this. No packaging, just the game cartridge itself. And the most expensive I could find on eBay, this game, was $249.99, and that's in the WATA seal of approval. So the last game I'm going to be talking about today was developed by Sega, and it was ported to the Super NES in 1994. Star Trek: The Next Generation. So this game is based off of the TV series. But this game starts out at the beginning when they introduced the new crew of the Enterprise and the new captain. So Captain Picard when he first starts off. So you follow their adventures in the story. And one of the alien races that are in the game is the Romulans. I didn't really play the game too much just because it sucked. I can't do this. I love Star Trek, but for the longest time they couldn't make a decent Star Trek game. And the first Star Trek game I actually liked was for the rebooted movie for the Xbox 360. I just could not get into it. And when I found it again, I couldn't remember why I didn't play it. So that I put it in and I remembered why. It was just so slow and I couldn't get anywhere right off the bat. I'll put a lot of time into a game, but if I can't get anywhere right off the bat or it doesn't pique my attention, it's hard to stick with it, right? So yeah, I love Star Trek, but not a good game. They make better Star Trek games nowadays, but back then it was meh. If you were to go on eBay, the cheapest I could find was $9.50, and the most expensive I could find was $1,299.99 with the Wata seal of approval. So Sega fans, that's a wrap for today. I just love doing these videos where I'm talking about my childhood, and I just love sharing it with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I see you in the next video. And that's just Prime.